how long should a camera last before you need to replace it? So this might depend on the quality of the camera itself. Is it a high-end camera? Is it a low-end camera? Because a high-end camera might have more quality parts or built-in longevity, or whatever is the best way to say that, whereas a cheaper camera might not last as long. And also, how many miles, so to speak, does a camera have on it already? If you bought the camera secondhand, does it have a super high shutter count or a super high runtime? Because if it's like a photography camera or a hybrid camera that could do both photo and video, shutter count is probably going to be something you're going to pay more attention to. If it's a cinema camera, you're probably going to pay more attention to its runtime hours, or whatever the term is for how many hours of filming have been done on it. For shutter count, you could look up online what is a high shutter count for your camera model, or the camera you're looking at on eBay, to see if it's worth buying, because maybe there's a certain point at where, like for miles on a car, where maybe at a certain point for a certain camera model, past a certain shutter count, maybe it becomes more at risk of, certain things not working or whatever. I haven't done enough of that to have encountered something like that yet. So far, I think things have gone pretty well when it comes to the whole shutter count thing. In terms of longevity, as long as you get a camera that hasn't been really abused or anything, hopefully it should last you a good long while. Don't think of this in the same context as a disposable razor, or like a phone. There's a mosquito in here, I think, or something like that. Like in terms of, people replace their phones every 1 to 2 or however many years. Don't think of a camera, a decent camera, in those terms. Think of it more similar to a car, where you might have a car for 5 or 10 years if you're not somebody that trades it in all the time. If you keep the car till it dies, you might have it for 10 or 20 years or whatever, depending on how much you use it. Think of a car more like a camera and less like a disposable razor. So if you buy a camera, especially brand new, if you buy especially a modern mirrorless camera, where you don't have to worry about that internal mirror that flips up and down as well, because with DSLRs you have that mirror inside as well, and so that's another thing that could break on you. Now at the same time, just because it can break doesn't mean that it necessarily will break on you soon at all, especially if it's not a super abused camera. You know what I mean? Depends on the quality of the thing that you're buying, if you're buying it secondhand, because some stuff might be kind of set up to be pretty close to failure, depending on if it's really been through the heavy use. But if it's just mildly used, it might last you a while before you have any serious issues. You know what I mean? So it's don't be too concerned about how long is this camera going to last me? If it's listed as say if on YouTube, if it's listed as used good condition or used excellent condition, probably don't be too concerned about it. Just make sure that the sensor is in good shape, that it all works properly. If all you have is some cosmetic scratching on the camera body and it doesn't affect the sensor or anything like that, and all the parts work, and the shutter count isn't some crazy high number for that camera model, then you might not have a lot to be worried about. So don't stress too much about that. And even then, the only time where maybe it would be a concern is if you're buying this thing that's already really expensive. If you're buying a cinema camera that already costs $3,000 on eBay, and there's certain damaged parts to it, or things that look kind of damaged that might be an issue or might not be an issue. If there's any things that kind of get you a little bit antsy when it's a bigger purchase, just communicate with the seller, see how big of a deal it is, make sure that the camera isn't only being sold for parts, make sure that it's actually in working condition if that's something that matters to you, if you're wanting to buy a camera that works. Just make sure of those things, and, see what the runtime hours are if you're buying a cinema camera. If it's got crazy long runtime hours, you might want to look into, at what point is the runtime hours too much, because it might not be as bad as you may think it is. So this is an area where just doing a few internet searches might put your mind at ease a little bit. Again, focus more on making sure that the device actually works and that there isn't any damage to the components that matter the most. Like when it comes to the actual image sensor, try to make sure that image sensor is undamaged, that it's clean. You know, if it's got IBIS, does the IBIS work, or is it kind of weird and on the fritz? Like, you know, does the viewfinder work? All these things, like those core kind of components, it might not really matter if the rubber on the grip is a little bit messed up, you know what I mean? Like that's like just more cosmetic. It might affect like your comfortability when you're using it, but it's not, as long as it's not going to affect the actual image, that's going to be one of the more important things, right? So I will leave that there. Keep this stuff in mind if it's helpful. If you have questions about cameras or camera gear, stuff like that, I have a Skool Community, link in description. Feel free to join the Skool Community and ask the questions there. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.